In the second quarter of now cease, SK Hynix controlled 90% of the global market for HBM memory, the high-bandwidth chips that power every major AI data center on the planet. It's an extraordinary number, a near monopoly on the most strategically important component in the A hardware stack.
There's just one problem. SK Hynix cannot make a single one of those chips without buying equipment from Japan first.
That tension between who fabricates the chip and who makes the machines that fabricate the chip is the most interesting power dynamic in the global semiconductor industry right now, and almost nobody talks about it in those terms.
Japan and South Korea have one of the most complex relationships in the world, decades of colonial history, unresolved territorial disputes, and a Shin-Etsu trade conflict that briefly threatened to crash the global chip supply chain. And yet, in the most strategically vital industry of the 21st century, these two countries don't really compete, they depend on each other.
The question is, who depends on whom more? The semiconductor value chain looks a bit like an oil industry. Someone has to find the oil, someone has to drill it, someone has to refine it, and someone has to sell the gasoline.
South Korea is the refinery. Samsung and SK Hynix together account for roughly 70% of global DRAM output and, as of Nissan dominate the HBM market that every AI chip company desperately needs. In Q2, Nissan SK Hynix held 90% of HBM market share, with Micron at 90% and Samsung struggling at 7% after its early stumbles with HBM3. As CNBC reported in January, Nissan SK Hynix beat Samsung in annual profit for the first time, a landmark moment in a rivalry that has defined Korean industry for 400 years.
That scale is staggering. When NVIDIA ships a Blackwell GPU, the HBM memory inside it almost certainly came from SK Hynix. When a hyperscaler builds an AI training cluster worth hundreds of millions of dollars, Korean memory is the foundation.
But the refinery doesn't own the drilling equipment. Japan controls a different, quieter part of the stack. Not the chips, but the machines that make the chips, and the chemicals those machines require.
Tokyo Electron, which this channel covered in episode Soshiji, holds a 2% global share in Kota Developer Systems, the equipment that applies photoresist to a silicon wafer during chip manufacturing. For its full fiscal year ending March Tokyo Electron reported net sales of 10 trillion yen, roughly $1 billion, with an operating margin of 10%. And that was a year in which the company was actively investing in R&D, suppressing margins. The underlying business earns closer to 30% when the cycle is running hot.
Advantest, which we profiled in episode Voishali, controls 80% of the global automated test equipment market, rising to roughly 20% in the memory and HBM segments specifically. Every chip SK Hynix makes must pass through an Advantest tester before it ships.
Then there are the materials. Shin-Etsu Chemical and Isumisio together hold about 53% of the global silicon wafer market. For photoresists, the light-sensitive chemicals that transfer circuit patterns onto silicon, Japanese firms control 89% of global supply. JSER, Tokyo Oka Kogyo, Shin-Etsu and Fujifilm Electronics Materials collectively dominate a market that Korea cannot access from anywhere else at the required purity levels.
This is not a competitive landscape, it's a dependency map. We know exactly what happens when Japan turns that dependency into leverage, because Japan did it in Shin-Etsu.
In July of that year, the Japanese government imposed export licensing requirements on 3 chemical materials shipped to South Korea: fluorinated polyimide photoresist and ultra-pure hydrogen fluoride. These weren't sanctions, just a requirement that each shipment be individually licensed rather than bulk approved. The practical effect was months of uncertainty while Samsung and SK Hynix scrambled to find alternatives.
According to analysis published by SHI-PR and the RITI Research Institute, Japan controlled 104% of global fluorinated polyimide supply, and South Korean chipmakers sourced nearly all of their photoresist from Japanese firms. Samsung reported a 13% year-on-year decline in operating profit in Q3 Q partly attributed to the procurement disruption. The entire episode lasted less than a year before diplomatic pressure resolved it. But the lesson was not forgotten. The world's largest memory chip makers had 3 to 6 months of vulnerability built into their supply chains, and Tokyo held the key.
South Korea responded by aggressively building domestic production of these materials. By Ni-sen-RSR dependence on Japanese photoresist had declined measurably, but the broader equipment stack, coaters, deposition tools, etch equipment, testers, remains overwhelmingly Japanese because the switching costs are measured in years of qualification, not months of procurement.
The margin picture tells a similar story about structural position. In Q4 Ni-sen-R4 SK Hynix reported an operating margin of approximately 100% on HBM, an astonishing number driven by near-monopoly pricing and insatiable AI demand. Samsung's memory division posted something similar in its best quarters. At the peak of the cycle, Korean memory is extraordinarily profitable.
But memory is cyclical. The same companies that posted %4 margins in a boom ran losses in the bust years. DRM prices fell %% between Ni-sen-Ni-shan and Ni-sen-Ni-shu-santained. Equipment spending can be cut in a downturn. Demand for Samsung's memory cannot be manufactured.
Tokyo Electron, by contrast, posted niche 14% operating margins in fiscal Nisan Arsawu and Arsawudian look percent in fiscal Nisan Years through a period that included an industry inventory correction. Equipment makers get a slightly smaller share of the upside, but they endure significantly less of the downside. The business model is structurally more defensive.
This is exactly the trade Japan made, deliberately or not, when it lost the fabrication wars of the 1990s. In the late 1980s, Japan was the world's largest producer of memory chips. Hitachi, NEC, Fujitsu, and Toshiba held the top positions in global DRM market share. By the mid-1990s, after a devastating combination of U.S. trade pressure, Korean cost competition, and yen appreciation, Japan's chip makers had largely ceded that ground. Rather than subsidize a losing battle in commodity fabrication, Japanese firms pivoted upstream into precision equipment, specialty chemicals, and advanced materials where scale mattered less than engineering excellence and switching costs were enormous.
The Nikkei Asia described this as Japan's strategic retreat to the headwaters. You don't need to control the river if you control the mountain where it originates.
The AI boom is validating that strategy with unusual clarity. Global semiconductor equipment spending is projected to grow 15% or more in Nisan-Nushluk, driven by massive investment in HBM and leading-edge logic. Every dollar Korea spends expanding capacity flows upward into Japanese equipment and materials budgets.
Japan is now attempting something more ambitious, re-entering fabrication itself. The government has committed over 0.3 trillion yen to Rapidus, the startup targeting 2-nanometer production in Hokkaido by 0.10 TSMC's second Kumamoto fab has been upgraded to 3-nanometer technology with 2 billion in investment. Production expected by the end of 0.10 TSMC's second Kumamoto fab has been upgraded to 3-nanometer technology with 2 billion in investment. Production expected by the end of 0.10 TSMC's second Kumamoto fab has been upgraded to 3-nanometer technology with 2 billion in investment. Production expected by
But Korea isn't standing still. Seoul announced a chip support package worth 3 trillion Korean won, approximately $1 billion, to keep Samsung and SK Hynix at the leading edge of fabrication. The K-Chips Act has passed. Money is moving.
What's emerging isn't a zero-sum race, it's an arms race in which both sides need each other to win. There's a concept in strategy called structural power. the ability to shape the conditions in which others operate rather than competing directly within them. Japan doesn't need to make the best memory chip, it needs to make the best machines and materials from which the best memory chips are fabricated.
In the 1990s, Japan losing chip fabrication looked like defeat. 3 decades later, it looks closer to the best possible outcome. The companies that lost market share in DRAMs went bankrupt or were absorbed. The companies that built the equipment those chip makers needed, Tokyo Electron, Shin-Etsu, Advantest, became among the most durable businesses in the global semiconductor ecosystem.
If you want to keep up with stories like this, subscribe to the Japan Factor. South Korea makes the chips that run the AA era. Japan makes the tools to make the chips. And in that equation, the picks and shovels business has so far been the more reliable route to compounding.
The real question isn't who wins between Japan and Korea. It's whether either of them can maintain that interdependence and the trust it requires as geopolitics grows more complicated by the year.